Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. Thanks for joining me today. Before we start, let's hear a Profit First success story from Paul Maskell from Business Owners Freedom Formula. He's talking about what he saw in 2008 during the recession and how we can survive storms.
Whereas Profit First can help that money make sure it doesn't disappear. Luckily for me, especially coming through the recession and watching all these people lose everything, including, my father, I was like, we're not spending any money on this. I know I can keep 30 grand in the bank and it's not going to disappear. Whereas a lot of business owners can't do that. They don't have the, self-control because it slowly dwindles. Okay, now we have 28, now we have 26, now we have 20 because they're buying things that they might not need. Whereas Profit First takes that profit first and then it tells you this is your operating expense fund and you need to operate out of this. So I really like the concept of Profit First. To do that,
we know about temptations, and that's why we keep those two accounts, profit and tax, at a separate bank to remove the temptation and you from stealing from yourself. Today is about staying out of debt and crushing your past debt. The goal of this podcast is to help you, the business owner, understand your financial numbers so you can make better decisions. We learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is too busy documenting your transactions and creating a rear view mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this. It's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. And let's face it, without good cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, and pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards of your labor and investment into your business. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. I need your help. Let me know where you're struggling and what you want to hear more about. Email me at questions@profitanswerman.com. I read every email, or go to the Profit Man Answer group in Facebook and post them there. I'll answer your questions on the show and also directly respond back to you. We can also make your questions anonymous if you need them to be. Let's get to destroying debt. Did you know your credit line can get pulled or reduced when the economy gets tight? And that's exactly what banks do, even if you're paying on time. That's why it's important for you to have the margin to handle those types of storms. I want to pause for a moment and ask you a question. What would your financial life be like if you didn't have a mortgage, a car payment, a lease payment, or any other debt payments? What would that do to your cash flow? Here's the reality. You have to learn to enjoy saving more than you enjoy spending. Or put another way, do you want to live your life building wealth for you or someone else? This is how I built wealth. And it's not to say you can't have nice things. But remind me again, what did you spend money on in 2017 that you still enjoy and love? Versus how much of that have you forgotten about and don't even remember? That's how spending goes. We spend stuff and forget that we spent it. And then we wonder, where is all our money? Debt is nothing more than borrowing from your future to enjoy today. And more often than not, tomorrow is going to compound to a much worse future than today, because compounding works in both directions. I get joy out of watching my money grow because it gives me the ultimate time freedom and the ability to say no. Did I mention I don't work with clients who don't show up and do the work? If you're going to whine and complain and waste my time, you're fired. Can you say the same for the clients in your business? Would you like to fire a couple of them? Profit First allows you to do that. I have to admit, this is hard work and it takes time, which is why people don't do it. People who get windfalls tend to blow it quickly. Just look at the people who win the lottery or get an inheritance. And honestly, it's no different than a business owner who goes out, has a banner month or two, and goes on a spending spree, forgetting about the tax bill due at the end of the year. We solve the roller coaster ride of business with Profit First. If you don't have the money to put into your owner's comp account to cover your salary, it's time to make hard spending decisions or go broke and hungry. Who would you rather be happier, you or the person you're needlessly sending money to? So let's do the debt freeze. Do you know how much debt you owe? It's on your balance sheet, or you can pull together all the debt, including the car lease and recurring charges. It's time for our big homework project. You need to pull up your last 12 months of transactions in your business. You can print them out, or you can use an Excel sheet. I suggest sorting it by payee to make it simpler rather than having to struggle repeating the same information over and over. Now, you're going to go through and mark every single transaction with one of 3 letters. The letter P for something that directly generates profit. For example, your salesperson, the machine that turns out the products that you sell, or maybe the cost of goods of the item that you actually sell to another person. If you're in the landscaping business, it's the lawnmower. Having that mower creates profit. Now, put in R for any expense that, while necessary, could be replaced with a lower cost alternative. A lot of business owners come to realize that their office space is in R. Maybe some of the software subscriptions that you have, or a business meal, or the cell phone plan. While these are important, they are things that we could reduce. Next is the last one. This is the U. Unnecessary. Unnecessary for delivering your offering. It feels nice, but does nothing to bring in or support more revenue. You're going to be shocked at how many U expenses you may have. By the way, having someone like your spouse or me challenge you on the letters you're assigning is really super helpful. I know most business owners have a smart spouse that they rarely listen to. And guess what? They give you free advice. While you're doing this, I also want you to circle any expense that is recurring, whether it's monthly or yearly. Cell phone, rent, insurance, software fees. It's a lot easier to do this in Excel because you can sort it at the end. Otherwise, you all have to add it all up by hand. So instead of circling Excel, you can color that cell with a particular color. Now it's time for math. First, I want you to exclude your taxes, your pay, and any draws or distributions you take. Divide the yearly number of all your spending by 12. This is your monthly nut. Does this number shock you and make you wonder, where did it all go? Now, compare this number to what we had during our instant assessment a couple of chapters ago for what your OPEX should look like. The difference is what you have to cut. I know, sometimes ripping the Band-Aid off tends to be painful at first, but it goes away, and it's better to deal with this now than let it fester over a long period of time. First step, go through your list and get rid of all the U expenses. Cancel them, do whatever it takes. This may take some time because some expenses take a year to get out of. I get it. Next, work on reducing the R expenses. This is called negotiating. The goal is to get to 90% of our operating expense target. Yeah, that's 10% below what we targeted. Why are we doing this? Because sometimes we need to cut and we cut too much, and so we need to bring it back. That gap allows you to bring it back and give you the room to do so. Next up, we need to build a leaner team. Labor is a very high cost, and while you need people to help you, you have to make sure you have the appropriate people at the appropriate amounts. So the first thing we're going to do is look at all the roles in your company, not the people, and ask, is this a necessary role for the company? Do you have an org chart? Maybe it's time to create one. If you have unnecessary roles, it's time to evaluate, and you may need to get rid of some of the unnecessary people in your organization. Look at the R roles and ask yourself, do you have the right solution for that role? Now, go back and look at your people. I have to believe you have some R people and some U people that are not the best fit for your company. It's time to make some really hard decisions. And I know this is not easy, but the rewards are tremendous both for you and from the employee. You're freeing people who don't want to work from you and would prefer to do something else. But just like you, they keep going until something pushes their hand. We're human. I get it. Here's a question I want you to ask. Do you want them to be rich, or do you want to build wealth? You can't help them build wealth until you create that rock solid foundation. Remember, I became rich working for someone else, and that's a super rarity. The reality is they didn't need me. I want you to also know that I believe in people paying people more, especially at lower wage points. Costco is an excellent example of a company that has fewer, better employees who earn more, and overall, they end up saving the business more. I also want you to know, no pay cuts. It sends a really bad message, and then you end up with other people leaving. So that is not the solution. Once you make your cuts and you make your decisions around roles and employees, it's important to have an honest conversation with the remaining employees about why you did this and explain how valuable they are to your company. Also, most people would prefer a little more money versus you wasting it on benefits they don't appreciate. That's why having these conversations helps. If you need, you can tell them your profit coach forced you to make these decisions. Blame them. Next up, we're going to call our bank to stop all automatic withdrawals from your accounts except for the P bills. You can call the vendors and let them know that you're going to be paid by check going forward. What I want is for you to feel the pain of writing those checks for R and U expenses every time you do it. I want you to make spending money painful when it's not profitable. Next up, call your credit card companies. Ask for new numbers on your cards. This will automatically end all the auto pays that are hitting your credit card. And the company that's hitting your credit card constantly will have to call you and ask for a new number. This forces you to make a decision to re-sign up for items that you may have forgotten about, or think about cutting back service levels. I built wealth having automated savings. You will go broke having automated payments. Compounding works in both directions. I'm going to do an entire episode on the power of compounding. Did you know the Planet Fitness business model is designed around you never canceling their low payment so you can pretend you belong to a gym? Those are the kind of expenses we need to get rid of. Here's one way to look at it. Have you heard of the one more day story? When you need to make a large purchase, just say, I will do it tomorrow. And tomorrow, you can say the same thing again. and you keep repeating it until you no longer want it or realize you must have it. Give yourself a little time to make larger decisions outside the excitement of the moment. Remember, if you cut too much, you can always add it back in. I think you're going to be surprised about what you really don't need. Next up, start negotiating. This is one of my super skills. I even negotiate with Sears, Home Depot, and other big box retailers. Everything is negotiable except my fee, because I don't need money. I need time. I get this is not something that everyone likes to do, and there are companies that will actually do this for you. Or maybe you have an employee who's always arguing that you can give this task to, but let's get it done. Now it's time to celebrate. All those expenses that you cut out, cross them out and say, congrats, you're doing a great job. By the way, the fancy car and the office don't add to the bottom line, so learn to spend wisely. Create true wealth instead of just looking wealthy and then staying up all night in fear of how you're going to make payroll. Owners have been able to pay down 7-figure debts. I want you to know this is possible, but it's not an overnight success story. It takes time and effort. When it's time to spend, ask yourself, is this a P, an R, or a U? Over time, things will improve, and some business owners might need a little bit of accountability. That's part of what I do to help people stay on track. These small steps over time compound, and then eventually we're on top of the mountain. But you've got to keep climbing. So, to kill debt, stop recurring payments. They're essentially debt. Use 99% of your profit allocation to pay off debt. Enjoy the 1% you do have and celebrate a little. Let's start the debt snowball and start paying off the smallest debts you have to create victories and momentum. This is about being frugal, not about being cheap. Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. Focus on the bottom line. I know you can do this. If you don't want to deal with this, then you can have me help you do it. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast. It's called Richer Soul. Before we go, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Let's thrive and grow. Have a profitable week.